Hey, everyone, welcome back. Today, I've got Michael Poggi on the podcast. Michael and I, we met at one of the mastermind meetups several months back. We're both in real estate, and we've been wanting to connect. He's got a really interesting strategy that I'm excited to jump in today. He's a family man. He's got 2 boys, hundreds of animals in his private zoo in South Florida. He's rescued hundreds of exotic animals that needed a home or were injured. He's an expert at helping people invest their money at using their IRA or 401k plan into turnkey, done-for-you real estate strategies. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Brandon. Appreciate you.
I've got to ask you. I'm sure you get this all the time, but while you had your private zoo and were rescuing exotic animals, did you ever run into like Joe Exotica at all? I know that people are thinking that right now.
Yes, we are close friends, actually. I mean, obviously we don't do business with him, but we are close friends because we were breeders of black leopards here, and we don't keep any black leopards here in Florida because I have 2 children. So now they're on a nonprofit compound where they're in huge enclosures and they're being taken care of and so on. But we were helping to increase the bloodline of black leopards so that they do not die out in the wild. And so we were in a breeding program that to help change the genes to make sure that it's not all from the same mom and dad, things like that. Very exciting, fun thing. So I have a pet black leopard still that is as sweet as can be to me and very loving, and bottle fed her from a baby.
That is very cool. For those in the audience that don't know you, maybe tell us a little bit of your background, kind of how you got started. How did you get involved in the zoo? How did you get involved in real estate?
Yeah, so thank you so much. So I went to college in Valparaiso, Indiana at Valparaiso University. And since I had such a love for animals, I went ahead and got a job as an assistant veterinarian for a exotic veterinarian, not a regular cat and dog veterinarian. And he handled all of Michigan City Zoo's animals, meaning tigers and elephants and snakes and alligators and deer. So I got a chance to work right next to him side by side, and was able to help to extract a rotten tooth in a tiger, or do a declaw on a tiger that was having problems, or spade or neutering animals so they don't produce and add to the problem, things like that. So when I finally graduated college, I had a large estate home with a lot of land. So I was actually taking in animals that maybe could never go back to their owners again. So maybe it was monkeys, or we had a lion that was in an accident being transported from a facility to the vet clinic where it broke its back, and we were able to take in the lion and just help them to recover. So we did a lot of stuff to help animals recover. So we also took in deer that were hit by cars and trucks all over Indiana, and owls, the giant eagle, the great horned owls and hawks, and we were able to rehabilitate them and release them back to the wild. And then the ones that were no longer releasable, I had federal and state permits to keep them, to give them a life rather than kill them and euthanize them. We would keep them and give them a huge enclosure to fly around and at least give them a good life. And while I was in college, I was able to learn a lot about investing, not only in the stock market, mutual funds, stuff like that, but also real estate. So I ended up becoming a stockbroker downtown Chicago, and I became a top producer very quickly because I worked my buns off, 24 hours a day. And I learned from my clients, Brandon, that most of their money was not in the stock market. So for example, if a client came to me and I would do a profile on them, I would find out that they have, $10 million in assets, and only $500,000 was in the stock market. The rest was all in apartment buildings and vacant land and, everything you could think of, new construction and things like that. So I got to learn from my investors, the wealthiest, about why the stock market is gambling and why that stocks and mutual funds will never make you super wealthy, and that you have to use your funds in real estate, and especially leveraging real estate. So what a difference. It really opened my eyes a lot. So I ended up becoming a brokerage firm owner, and finally sold my brokerage firm for millions and moved to Florida and put all my winnings into real estate, and that took off like crazy.
Now, interesting story. So you got to start, you were an assistant at a veterinary clinic, not just any veterinary clinic, but for exotic animals. That's kind of where you discovered a passion for these exotic animals. And so you
Yes.
set up like this environment to help kind of cater to some of the ones in need. Very admirable, by the way. You worked in stockbrokering, kind of discovered the retirement plans, worked with some very sophisticated high net worth investors, were probably surprised to find out that they didn't have a lot of their money in the stock market, but in all these alternative assets. And it sounds like that's kind of where you got your introduction to it. Now, you said something very interesting. You said, and I'm paraphrasing here, that the stock market was like gambling. Elaborate on that moment for a second when you realized that. Like, what happened? How did you come to that aha moment?
Well, I know a lot of people that were much older than I was at the time who were trying to retire at 60 or 70, and they still have not made enough money in their either IRA or their 401k plan or their brokerage account to retire. So they still had to work. And when you look back and figure out why, it was because that they didn't have enough increase in their stocks or their mutual funds. And some of them were break even, some of them were down. So here they are trying to finally retire, and they could not. They still had to work. And I realized that it was from basically betting on the stock market and mutual funds that they would eventually be much, much higher. It's almost like a big lie. And unfortunately, most people are brainwashed that, the thing to do is to, start making money and then put it away every month into stocks and mutual funds in your 401k plan. And one day you're going to be a hero. It just is a bunch of baloney. It's a flat out lie. And the wealthiest people, don't use, stocks at a stock brokerage firm to become super wealthy.
Yeah, diversification is very important. I'm saying, don't invest at all in stocks. But what's crazy to me are the people who just don't know the effects that the fees have from the
Yeah,
financial advisors and the mutual
sure.
funds. A lot of people don't realize that these mutual funds and these annuity companies, basically any company that sells a financial product, they are calling on stockbrokers. They're calling on financial advisors. They're calling on these people to try to push their products to their customers. And so when you add up a 1% fee to a financial advisor, you go, I got 100 grand with them. It's only $1,000 a year. That's not bad. I can do that. But then when you look at what they invest your money in, these mutual funds that charge you another point or a point and a half, it
Yeah.
kills your portfolio because you're getting hit with that 1.5%, 2%, 2.5% fee from the financial advisor and the mutual funds that they're investing in. And if you look at the effect that has on a 30, 40-year portfolio, we're talking millions of dollars. I mean, it's absolutely insane. And I think that's the biggest tragedy that people don't understand is the fees that are involved. That's why I personally, if people ask me, what do you recommend? I go, I don't recommend anything in stocks, but if you're going to invest in stocks, look at index funds like Vanguard with really small fees that at least, track the market.
Sure.
So it sounds like you had this kind of epiphany into alternative assets. What were the next things that happened after you had this epiphany?
Well, one of the things I learned again from my wealthy clients were that their IRA at the stockbrokerage firm could not be used for real estate investing or lending or anything of that sort. So what I found out was I learned from my investors about a self-directed IRA because the brokerage firms will not talk about that to their stockbrokers.
Yeah.
In other words, if we were to talk about a self-directed IRA on the phone, they would fire you. They don't want you to know that you can use an IRA to invest in real estate and use like a Roth IRA tax free and get ahead exponentially faster by not having to pay taxes on every time you make a profit or every time you make income from rentals or from lending. So I realized that people are brainwashed into thinking that their IRA is stuck at a brokerage firm or their 401k plan is stuck at their company. And they didn't realize they can borrow money from their 401k plan, even if they still work there, and use it for real estate. So I've helped thousands of investors to pull money out of their 401k plan legally without a penalty and be able to use it in vacant lots in fast growing resort communities. And same thing with old 401k plans. I've helped them to roll those over into a self-directed IRA where they have the ability now to use them in great real estate strategies.
Yeah, the power of the self-directed IRA and the
Yeah.
Roth is tremendous. So talk to me more about this strategy. You've settled on something that's very niche. You focus on these vacant lots that are buildable ready and this very specific type. I mean, you got a very, very specific criteria. Talk to us more about this strategy and the focus.
Yeah. So when I started to invest in real estate, I started dabbling in vacant lots first because I only had $500 in my IRA at that time when I first started. And I was a very young man at the time, and I tried to buy real estate with $500 and it was almost impossible. So what I did was I started to call people that owned vacant lots in resort communities, and I would offer them to buy their lot. At the time, they were valued around $5,000. That was 25 years ago. But anyway, I would say, hey, listen, I'd like to buy your lot for $5,000, but I only have 500. Could I please make you payments for 5 years and without any prepayment penalty? And most would say, no, I want all my money up front, or what happens if you don't pay me? I'm screwed. And I'd say, no, that's not true. If I don't pay you on the $4,500 that I owe you, you still have the deed to the land, you have my deposit of 500, and you have the payments I made. And so finally, I would get 1 out of 10 people would say, yes, that sounds like a great idea. So I went ahead and bought one lot in my Roth IRA, self-directed Roth IRA, and I leveraged it. I put down 500, and I was controlling $5,000 with 500. And I realized that you cannot do that with mutual funds. I cannot control $5,000 worth of mutual funds with $500. So immediately a light bulb went off, and I went ahead and I held that lot for almost 3.5 years, and it had doubled. So it went to 10 grand. And when I went to sell it, I tried something very unique that was my secret weapon, my secret sauce. And this made me a multimillionaire. I put the lot for sale, saying resort property for sale, 1/4 acre, buildable lot. Of course, there was lakes, 8 lakes, 7 golf courses, and swimming pools. And then I put the key words that said 0 down, 100% financing, no credit check, everyone approved. And when I did that, my phone rang off the hook because many people in the United States don't have enough money to buy the lot or even down payment on the lot.
Right.
So or they have bad credit for that matter. So I don't care if they had bad credit because I hold the deed, and if they don't pay me, I'm able to take the lot back. Well, out of 1,000 people that have paid me over the years, I only had 1 default, and that was because they lost their job, and I was able to restructure the loan for them over a 10-year period and reduce the payment. So that was the secret sauce, was how I sold it on terms. So 0 down, 100% financing, no credit check, everyone approved. So then I said, wow, if I could do this with 1 lot, why not do it with 30, 50, or 100 lots? So sure enough, I was able to borrow money from my brother into my self-directed IRA. I borrowed $20,000, and I was able to put $500 down payment on 40 vacant lots. So my 20 grand down controlled 40 vacant lots, which was a gold mine for me. So now I'm controlling 40 vacant lots that were worth $5,000 a piece. That's 200,000. And I was using 20 grand to control $200,000 worth of real estate. And of course I had to make the payments on 40 lots, which I did by either getting a second and third job, or I would either that, or I would flip a house and make 30 grand on a flip or 40 grand on a flip and use that to make my payments. But I never defaulted. And a couple of years later, when they were up 50%, I put them for sale using my secret sauce, and they started to sell within the first couple of months. And I ended up finally selling all of them. And I was able to create passive income for me that was enormous. Passive income, tax-free in my Roth IRA. And of course, I did some in my LLC because, you can't do it all in your IRA. You don't have money to live off of them. So I did a lot of it in my LLC, but then I also did it in my IRA. And that created massive passive income. So then I went ahead and, used that profit that I made every month, which was 40 lots, bringing in about $300 a month. That's $12,000 a month. I took that and I bought 2 more lots a month. So I bought 24 more lots per year and kept growing my portfolio until I got up into the hundreds and hundreds of vacant lots in fast-growing resort communities. It turned into a gold mine. And that's what I teach people today. I teach them how, and then we have a done-for-you program where we do it all. We find the lots, we make sure they're buildable, we check the topography maps to make sure that there's no ravines blocking the entrance, stuff like that. And, and then we're off to the races.
So you'd found this strategy where you were reaching out to people who owned these vacant lots, basically controlling 10 times what you had in the deal through a deposit.
Yeah.
Basically, you're doing seller financing, right?
Yes,
You're selling
exactly.
it to you're buying it on terms, and then you turn around after some time, and then you would do the same thing with somebody else after it had appreciated, and you're basically arbitraging and depositing dividends. So I got two questions. The first one I want to figure out kind of like which areas you focus on and how you target these specific areas, because it's very, very specific. But first, how do you go about securing the new buyer's interest to it? Because I guess you got this lot that you're making payments on. It's not free and clear yet because you haven't paid it in full. Like, how does that work with the new buyer in place who's also making payments?
Well, the new buyer doesn't get the title until they made their last payment in full. And I don't get my title until I've made my last payment in full. So if my new buyer wants to pay it off early and they paid for the whole lot, let's say I sold it at 10 grand, they would pay me 10 grand, and then I would end up giving the money that I owe the seller of the lot that I bought, $4,500, and then the title transfers to me and then transfers to the new buyer. Very simple to do, and that can be done by hundreds and hundreds of lots at a time. And by the way, you were asking also, you were asking about, where and why and all that stuff. Yeah, I can easily explain that.
Yeah. So how is the new buyer's interest secured to the property? Like, they give you a deposit, you still have a loan, I guess, that you owed. I'm assuming you're doing like a deed of trust and a promissory note. How does that work? Are you doing a new promissory note with them? Like, how does that work? What's the securitization look like?
It's a new note, and it's the same way that I'm secured. Remember, I don't have the property until I made my last payment. It's no different than an automobile, for example. If I go out to buy a car today for 20 grand and I put 5 grand down, it's not my car. I don't have the title until I made my last payment. And if I pay it off early, I get the title. It's the same as a car loan, identical. Everyone who has a car loan now knows that it's not their car until they make their last payment. And if they don't make payments, it gets repossessed the same way. So, by the way, you had also asked, Brandon, about, how do I find them? Not just where, but how. The fastest way for me is to send out thousands of offers every month. So if I send out thousands of offers to people who are not for sale, that's where I've had my best luck. I don't send out offers to people that are for sale. I send out offers to people that are not for sale because there's no competition then. So if I send out 5,000 offers, it might cost me $4,000 a month, but I end up with 10 or 20 lots that I close on and I end up buying in my own portfolio for myself and for my family.
How do you pick out which areas you're going to target? What does the filter process look like?
Yeah, thank you. Good question, Brandon. So, in order to figure out where's the best place to buy vacant lots, because I've had lots of practice in regular common subdivisions where, it's just a vacant lot and there's nothing else going on. I realized that in order to sell a lot faster later on, it needs to be in an area where whoever buys the lot can use it just for the amenities. In other words, in a resort community. So it needs to be in a resort where someone from New York or Chicago or any state can buy my lot and not have to just buy it because they like it to build a house right now. So I'm not looking for buyers that want to build a house right now, although they could. Most of my buyers are people that want to buy it for investment purposes, but also to be able to come there and enjoy the resort, especially if there's 8 lakes, 7 golf courses, and hiking trails and biking trails and everything you could imagine to do. It's a fun place to go with a family. So now you get to have fun and also enjoy the potential appreciation. So I hired a research company, Brandon, and I paid them almost $7,000 to find me the best resort subdivisions in America. And here was my criteria. They had to be under 20 grand because I don't want to buy a lot for 100 grand because when I go to sell it at double, I have to sell it at 200 grand. And that's difficult to be able to find buyers at 200 grand. Yeah. It's almost like the old pizza idea. What makes more money, a whole pizza or selling slices of a pizza? Selling slices of a pizza, obviously. So I went ahead and hired a research company to find me the hottest resort communities in the country under 20 grand. And they had to be at least a quarter acre but not more than an acre. I don't want 5 acres. I don't want 10 acres. I want a quarter acre only. And they had to be in areas with low taxes and low cost of living, and south of all of this, fairly south of the snow, where they've got at least some seasons, but yet not freezing cold like up north.
I imagine Florida is a pretty big area that you focus on.
It used to be, but now, unfortunately, they've gone over 20 grand. Back in the day, 20 some years ago, we were having a real good time in resorts in Florida. Now they don't meet our criteria anymore, and the taxes are too high. So unfortunately, a vacant lot in Florida, we might pay $350 a year for taxes, where maybe in Bella Vista, Arkansas, where I spend all my investing money, I pay only $60 a year. So a significant difference in carrying costs for something outside of Florida. So states outside of Florida are much, much better than Florida right now. If I'm going to build a house on it right now, then I would do a Florida lot. But if I'm not going to build on it right now, and I'm just going to hold it for a long period of time, I would not be investing in Florida.
I see. Yeah, dramatic difference. Taxes add up over time. Yep. Now, who would you say your target client is for these lots after you're making payments to them, you've got it on seller financing? I mean, who are they a really good fit for?
Probably someone that has about $6 grand in cash where they can put a down payment down and start making payments on the balance. Anybody that has a brokerage account and they would like to diversify and get out of some or all of their stocks, all of their mutual funds, get out of their annuities, get out of their bonds, and move it into safe quarter acre buildable lots in fast growing resorts. And especially with people that have IRAs, because an IRA typically are stuck in stocks and mutual funds and they don't get ahead. So if they were to do a rollover, which we handle all of that for free, our office and company handles rolling over their IRA into a self-directed IRA for free. And then from there, we help them to find the lots. We make sure they're buildable. We inspect the lots. We make sure there's no liens on the property. And then they get moved into that investor's IRA or 401k plan. If they have an old 401k plan, we help them to roll that over into a new self-directed IRA. If they have a current 401k plan where they still work there, we help them to borrow up to $50,000 outside of, to borrow it out of their 401k plan with no penalty and no early withdrawal complications or nothing like that. It's perfectly legal to do. And we've probably done close to 2,400 vacant lots just in the last 9 years. So we've helped people to invest in over 2,400 vacant lots from those type of entities.
Okay, so you primarily work with investors who are looking to diversify, add land to the portfolio, not just land, but land that's in these resort areas that's appreciating very quickly, still affordable, kind of on the up and coming demographic, and then they can buy it with a deposit, so they can control a significantly amount more real estate than they actually are putting money down for. And so it sounds like these is the end goal for them to like build something on this lot? Is it just to hold it and let it appreciate? What's usually the end strategy for your
The best strategy is really
buyers?
To hold them, is because to get involved with becoming a builder or even hiring a builder becomes quite time consuming, cumbersome, and very difficult being that far away. Mm-hmm. So that's why even I don't build on any of my own lots. I've got great lots in there, beautiful lots that would make someone a great home site. But if I'm going to build, it would be on something where I can keep an eye on it close to home. And the idea is that the vacant lots take the place of your mutual funds. They take the place of your annuities. They take the place of your stock portfolio, because ultimately you don't buy a mutual fund and then sell it a year later. You buy a mutual fund and you hold it, and you're hoping that it gets 8 or 10% return. Well, my vacant lots have at least given me 20% return or more per year on average. And that's because I just waited and was patient. And, we all know what makes vacant lots go up in value. And that's when there's more homes being built all around you in the subdivision. Yeah. And pretty soon you're the last lot left in the neighborhood. And now your lot's worth 80 grand or 150 grand for that matter.
Mm-hmm. I see. So you're identifying the areas where there's already a lot of development and the writing is basically on the wall.
Yep. It's just I got to wait my turn, and all I got to do is ride the wave up. And I didn't have much success during COVID getting any progress, but as soon as COVID was over, that's when everybody went crazy and all the builders started building again. And I think that my lots probably doubled in about a year and a half just after COVID. And I mean, that's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
they sat for a few years with no activity because no one was doing anything. But once that was over, everyone was back to work, and we made a killing. So it's something that I would say you should hold them longer term. And then after holding them, then sell them on terms to the next person and create passive income, maybe at 10% interest. That's typically what I do. Is I do 10% interest. So I'm collecting a profit and 10% more. So I'm getting paid twice, and it's all in my Roth IRA, tax-free. It doesn't have to be in my Roth IRA. It could be in my LLC or my name.
Why not?
But I prefer to do it tax-free because it accelerates my wealth 10 times faster.
I see. So you've got this great strategy that's built. You're servicing investors who want to diversify into land, invest in these appreciating resort areas, and ultimately control a great deal of more value than what they actually have cash invested in. So you've got a pretty good idea of who the target customer there is. Now, you also have a program that I'm aware of that it kind of teaches this strategy. Talk to me more about that.
Basically, what I do is I explain it to people on a webinar so they understand the whole process. In other words, how I acquire them, how I evaluate the lot. And then at the very end, I offer that we can do it for you, a turnkey done for you program. And so right now we're giving people lots at $12,000 to $15,000. So somewhere between 12 and 15. So an investor that has, let's say, 100 grand in their IRA, they can get 8 vacant lots. And now they have 8 vacant lots in their IRA. Sometime later on down the road, if they sell them, they've got 8 lots that someone's paying them $400 a month or something like that. It's an absolute gold mine. So yeah, we can teach them, and then also we can then do it for them.
And for those on the audience that want to, learn more about you or go check out this webinar, get some more information, where would you steer them?
Well, easily they can text me at my cell phone number. It's my direct cell phone number. They can text me, and I'll go ahead and send them a link to the next webinar. I have them almost every week, a webinar on building wealth with land tax-free. And so my personal phone number, I'll put it in the chat right here, is 954-258-6954. And then also, if they want to get on my calendar to discuss their IRA or discuss their brokerage account or discuss their cash or discuss their 401k plan, they would go to my calendar, which is www.meetwithmichaelpoggi.com, Poggi, Poggi, meetwithmichaelpoggi.com. And then they'll have the ability to get on my calendar, and we'll spend some time going over their questions, and then we'll go ahead and show them everything on a webinar so they understand how easy it is to be a landowner, much easier than mutual funds and much more profitable, and I think much safer in my opinion.
That sounds like a plan. If you missed that, don't worry about it. We're going to take his phone number and the web address, all that. We'll put it in the description here. Michael, was there anything you want to leave the audience with?
Yes, I have a copy of my book here. I forgot to show you. Let me grab it. Hang on one second. So most of the secrets that I have accumulated, I have put into a book called Build Wealth Tax Free. And it's on Amazon.
Got it. And send that link and we'll make sure that gets posted. I'm looking at it right now. Build Wealth Tax Free Profit Formula, by far one of the best investment books available. We'll make sure that link gets posted there as well. Go check out Michael's book. Michael, it's fantastic to see you again. Great having you on. We'll see you guys next time.
Thank you so much, Brandon. Appreciate you.